Welcome to the shooting show. This week we have a foxing double with top foxer Robert Bucknell, plus Stuart Wilson is on a roe cull in North Yorkshire. We're ready for another night out with Robert Bucknell and his rifleman, Nigel. On the cards tonight is some pre-emptive fox control ahead of lambing season. Robert sets the scene.
We're hoping to go to somewhere where they've got sheep being born later on in March. They lamb in 3 tranches. They start in January, next lot will be in this month, February, and there'll be a 3rd lot in March. And the March are all born outside, whereas the other 2 will be inside and in cover and hopefully safe. By March, not only are the lambs coming out and outside and vulnerable to the weather, which doesn't help if that goes wrong, but foxes will now be dropping their cubs and they'll be hungry. And so the idea is that we'll try and polish off a few foxes before they get a chance to have a go at the lambs as they're being born. Very windy and breezy out there, but no rain this time. Last time we tried to go out, it was absolutely ghastly. Turned up at the farm. We've got limited place that we can park. We can draw round to what's the right-hand side of the farmyard to a gateway when we can look along the valley and up the hill on the left. Open the gate, just sneaked in, not too far, so we didn't leave some big wheel marks or get stuck. But that gave us a good view right round both ways, about 180 degrees. Where it is quite a good spot because the traffic comes down the hill on the main road to our right and the lights swing across the valley and turn round, so you've got this continual light coming round. And so the foxes get quite used to that.
We're in position and the night is young. Robert opts for the slow and steady approach.
Never be in a rush. Usually if I'm in somewhere, not too sure, have a look, just sit there, see if there's anything moving before we start calling or doing anything else. So gave a few calls, and just at that point we saw some eyes across the other side coming down from the hill, and there's clanging and banging going on behind us. Lights flashing around, and the farmer had turned up, put his livestock to bed and check it over. So decided that just as things were starting to move, he would come over and have a chat with us. Luckily he took the hint and disappeared out the way. And the foxes kept coming down. The only problem was that the one on the left decided, as they often do, and I don't know why, they don't like a full light on them, although the light was turned right down, they get behind a tree. So it was all of just out of shotgun range, I suppose, 50, 60 yards. It was behind a little ash tree. Then it skipped sideways and went behind a thorn bush and sat there peering through the bush. We could see the eyes every now and again. But in the meantime, its companion, to our right, its left, came down 100 yards away from it, pulled through across the meadow and gradually crept in and was quite interested in the call which we kept trying to tease them in with, and gave Nigel a shot. That went down and the other one just went. We didn't see the going of it. So we then sat and watched, waited for anything else to come down, just as anything passing through, called a few times, sat and waited, got cold, wind blew. But in fact, all we saw was the 2 foxes, and we didn't see another flash of eye. We watched hares, rabbits, everything else, and then eventually got cold and dreary and nothing was moving.
One fox down is no mean result, especially in a howling wind. We thought Essex was meant to be mild, but Robert's not giving up and heading for shelter yet.
We decided to go to the next door farm, which is only about half a mile away. And there it's very much a prairie, but they have a lot of turkeys on the farm, locked away in sheds, of course. They're not allowed to roam free, because that would have been very exciting as far as the foxes were concerned. And they've got a very sandy hill at one end of the farm, just at the back of the village, so we pulled into the middle of that and gave it a good call, but we were in the eye of the gale. I don't know, the wind was doing a good 40 miles an hour, I think, this evening at times. And there's a wood in front of us, village on the left, and we thought, well, that's bound to produce something, but absolutely nothing. So we then turned and went towards a more open ground. And in one of the old pits, they've got an area that the local shoot releases duck in. Well, foxes and duck always go well together, or depending on which angle you're looking at it from. Gave a jolly good call there, sat and watched, absolutely nothing. So we then decided to do a circuit of the farm. We drew into the farm, had a look through the buildings all round, no eyes, no fox shapes. Pulled to the far end, swung across. We could see across the best part of 250, 300 acres from that position. Absolutely nothing. Swung the light back over my right-hand shoulder, and there was a fox, not running away from us, but running from right to left. So quite what it was doing, only the fox could tell us. Mass panic in the back, because everybody had fallen asleep by then. Lifted the light up, put it over the top, stayed roughly with it. Nigel got all lined up. And good scent to hit, 130 yards away, one fox in the bag. But when we went to pick it up, the poor thing, it was a vixen, and absolutely smothered in mange, tails, fur was nearly all gone, and rather a state. So I should think from the point of view of the local dog walkers, it was a good one to get out of the way. So having retrieved the fox, we had a quick vote, which didn't take very long, as we were all cold and had had enough, and the warmth of a house and a large coffee and tea beckoned. So we're now consuming bickies of various sorts, and we're into our second cup of tea in some cases.
Robert Bucknell and the boys there taking a fine brace. And now, the Shooting Show news.
This is the Shooting Show news, with the CLA Game Fair less than 23 weeks away. Excessive browsing and grazing by deer is the biggest threat to native woodland health, according to a Forestry Commission report. Immediately, some groups called for a move to a regulated approach to deer management, as opposed to the current voluntary system. But the Association of Deer Management Groups has expressed concern that this would encourage further applications for out-of-season culling licences, and deer managers argue that other factors, such as tree disease and Scotland's 6.6 million grazing sheep, should not be overlooked. The increasing appeal of shooting has bridged the gender gap, new studies say. Countryside organisations are reporting positively from the recently closed game shooting season, with increasing numbers of women taking part. It was estimated 500,000 people took part in the shooting on the final day of the season, something Countryside Alliance chairman Sir Barney White-Spunner has called a true success story. Read more in Modern Gamekeeping magazine. Ely has updated several of its cartridge ranges and launched 2 brand new cartridges. The VIP range, which includes the VIP Trap, VIP Skeet, VIP Sporting and VIP Federation, has been upgraded and will be available from the beginning of March. Olympic Blues cartridges have been updated to offer class-leading speed and patterning while being smooth with lower recoil. And finally, there are 2 low recoil cartridges. The Amber, designed specifically for female shooters and developed with BBC's Young Sports Personality of the Year, Amber Hill, and the Rebel for younger shooters. A national rural crime network has been launched. The Rural Services Network, a non-profit organisation that represents a range of rural service providers, has joined up with police officers, the Countryside Alliance, Farmers Weekly, police and crime commissioners, the National Community Safety Network and other bodies to help police tackle rural crime. 18 police and crime commissioners in England and Wales have given their backing to the project, with a further 8 considering becoming involved. And finally, product launch news is flooding in for the British Shooting Show, taking place this weekend. The latest news is that Perazzi will launch its new MXS Sporter. Designed specifically for sporting and compact, the MXS is a new concept with aggressive lines and superb handling. It'll retail from £5,500. Also at the show, Browning will have new shotguns and a new X-Bolt rifle, plus new Winchester ammo. Don't miss all the news in our British Shooting Show special next week. That was the Shooting Show news.
We're just nicely nosing onto the ground now. I'm just going to pull over and text the landowner, let him know that we're coming on to have a quick mooch about. This is text sent. Usually not a problem, just as long as he's aware that I'm around.
Stuart Wilson has a cull quota to meet and time is running out to achieve it. Time for a much needed doe stalk on his ground in North Yorkshire. After his twig snapping incident last time we saw him on the show, Stuart is doubly keen to show us his fieldcraft is up to scratch. Stopping and spying often, he makes sure this is a textbook stalk. But there's one thing missing, and that's the deer themselves, who are nowhere to be seen, but Stuart knows this land well and heads to a spot that previous reconnaissance has shown to be full of promise.
You can sometimes see the deer browsing in this edge. Or they can be making their way along this hedge to get to the game strip. And they can be here sort of any time of day really. There's no sort of pattern to it. There's an awful lot of deer sign, a lot of slots, and a lot of muck on the floor. I'd even sort of say that some of them were probably beds as well, where they're actually couched up, ruminating.
Stuart's clearly been working hard on his stalking skills. He gets us right up close to a trio of roe, seemingly oblivious to our presence. Just as we train camera and rifle in their direction, they move on. But the chance isn't gone yet.
In the middle of this hedge, it looks like it's been an old ditch at some point. There is actually a new ditch at the far side. But we've just been sat there glassing this wood side. I heard some sort of rustling in amongst the hedge. Just thought, yeah, it must be a squirrel, and the wind is just sort of pushing across this way. Bit more rustling and sort of away, didn't think much of it. And then 15 yards in front of me, those 3 deer just popped out. Mature doe and two doe youngsters. Looked like one from last year and maybe one from this year. And they've just bounced away, completely unaware that I was there, barring my scent. Looked back, sort of relaxed. The mature doe squats, takes a pee. They relax, their patches go down, and they just sort of meander back through that wood. So if we push through, we may be able to sort of catch up on them with on the back of the wood. We'll just let them settle a couple of minutes.
It's time for Plan B. We stalk right round the woodland, taking care to give the deer a wide berth. Stuart has done his homework and cut a path here ahead of time. And luck appears to be on our side too, as a fallen willow offers an ideal vantage point.
final bit of the approach now. I'm going to cut up this far side, ready to get onto those last 3 fields and try and get into position on the willows. See if anything comes out this evening. First time I've used my path that I've cut. Real sort of pleased with the way that went. As I was pretty much to the end of the path there, I glassed across and there was the last of the 3 just going into this sort of middle wood. So, and normally if you'd cut through there, you'd be clattering about, crashing, breaking branches, making a real row, and you'd clear the place. Everything would just sort of go in. So, yeah, definitely worth doing. We've done our best to get around them, but those, I think the 3 we saw come out of the hedge real close have just made their way out of that last wood. They're cutting right the way over, so they're going to be going in pretty much where we're going to be sat watching tonight. So,
If you know your territory, sitting and waiting at a likely location can be just as fruitful as stalking on. Stuart elects for a vigil on the sticks. He's sure the deer will make their way through a gap at the edge of the forestry. Time ticks on, but Stuart holds out. As late afternoon gives way to evening, the deer finally show interest in coming through, but they stay agonisingly out of range. There's no dead ground and stalking in will surely spook them. Staying put is the only option. At last the waiting game pays off. A doe and a follower step out of the woodland, appearing as if from nowhere. As quickly as possible, Stuart readies the rifle. Quickly reloading, Stuart covers the doe, but she stays down where she fell. The buck makes for the horizon, as do the deer in the neighbouring field, but 1 deer grassed is a good result for this tense but rewarding stalk.
I think that's a very successful end to what's been a pretty difficult week's stalking. There's been some very adverse wind conditions and changeable wind conditions as well. The last 2 days though, the wind has sort of maintained a fairly strong southeasterly, which has favoured getting into position by the fallen willow that's come through the fence. Got into position tonight. A couple of deer within sort of 15-20 minutes had popped out in the far field and made their way up the far side of the hedge. It was sort of impossible to stalk. Stayed in position, and within 5 minutes another 2 deer had come out. A good doe and a young buck. The doe presented a broadside shot as soon as she did, and she dropped like a stone. So very pleased with the way the ammunition performed. First deer that I've shot with the 76 grain gecko, so absolutely no complaints at all there. Got everything dragged out and stashed away into the discovery, and it's now time to make my way home.
That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. This has been The Shooting Show.